President Obama's Christianity, the National Prayer Breakfast, Part 13. If you've not had a chance to see the postings from the very beginning of this series, let me recommend that you begin with the first presentation. What we are trying to get you to see is that this president is not as multicultural as he would have you to believe in one sense, and that he is seeking to change the historical foundations of this nation by introducing his theology through his world and life view. And to do that, you need to hear the president when he's really giving a presentation of his faith. Because he's telling you what he believes, and he's telling us where we're going under his administration. Now, we've been addressing the president's National Prayer Breakfast speech, and we're continuing again. We're down to this presentation and one left. With that, let's look at the next section wherein the president states, quote, "Just last month, it was inspiring to see thousands of young Christians filling the Georgia Dome at the Passion Conference to worship the God who sets the captives free and works to end modern slavery." Here is more evidence of the theology that is driving this president. Do you hear the theology coming through? He continues, "Since we've expanded and strengthened the White House faith-based initiative, we've partnered with Catholic charities, well, we're not so sure today how much they've partnered with them, to help Americans who are struggling with poverty." But Mr. President, how about your administration's destructive practices with the free exercise of religion when it comes to contraceptives? Well, he continues that we've worked with organizations like World Vision and American Jewish World Service and Islamic Relief to bring help to those suffering around the world. To this, we give respect that the president does have a humanitarian desire. He continues, "Colleges across the country have answered our Interfaith Campus Challenge, and students are joined together across religious lines in service to others, from promoting responsible fatherhood to strengthening adoption." Well, excuse me, Mr. President, but what about stopping abortion by promoting adoption rather than abortion? Here again, are you not the one who is to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves? Well, anyway, he continues, "From helping people to find jobs to serving our veterans, we're linking arms with faith-based groups all across the country." Well, Mr. President, I don't know what faith-based groups you are linking with, but your values and your common ground and your common good is not in the faith that historic Orthodox Christianity teaches. They come from a different value. We are not multiculturalist, and we don't believe that all roads lead to heaven, that there is only one God and he goes by many names. Not at all. Well, the president states, and I quote, "I think we all understand that these values, those are those universal liberal values, cannot truly find voice in our politics and policies unless they find a place in our hearts." Unquote. Here he makes his point very personal. Unless you and I accept these values, and only the values he's speaking of, then we will fail to make them the basis of our politics and policies. Again, this is theological dominionism. It is the implication of his world and life view based on his theological foundation. Liberation theology. That is what is driving this president. He continues, "The Bible teaches us to be, quote, doers of the word and not merely hearers," unquote. Here the president quotes the Bible once again. It's the Christian Bible, by the way. But are these the values that he's speaking of concerning being the basis of our politics? Are our political and philosophical views within the political realm to be based on these biblical values? Which is it, Mr. President? Biblical injunctions or no biblical injunctions? Oh, you talk about personalizing them, but once a person personalizes them, they must externalize them. They must externalize them into every area of life. They must, as you said, live out this fully in their life. Oh, Mr. President, that means it has to have political, educational, social, cultural implications. So what is the theology that this president is teaching? Listen to him. He says, quote, we're required to have a living, breathing, active faith. Unquote. But Mr. President, again, what faith are you talking about? Is this the faith of Christianity? The faith of Islam? The faith of the Hindu? Is it the religion of humanism? They must have a faith, an active faith. An active faith means a theology. A theology means you have to have a world and life view. And he's going to point that out to us very clearly here. Well, he goes on to say we need to have this living, breathing, active faith in our own lives. It's personal. Clearly, Mr. President, you have been advocating values that are peculiar to politics and policies in America. These values are faith-based. Well, that means they would be biblically based then. But you said we can't have biblically based policies or politics. But yet we have to live by biblical injunctions. Well, Mr. President, we're quite confused. Maybe what you mean is there are certain types of biblical teachings that we should not adopt, but more in a generalized, universal way. Perhaps the way the liberal interprets the Bible. But note, he says, if you are only personalizing them, then we can live them out. But then if we're personalizing them, you got to ask, what's the need to have them politicized by your administration's injunctions? What is it, Mr. President? What is it that you want us to understand as you're speaking to us? What type of religion is this? Well, he goes on, and I quote, and each of us is called on to give something of ourselves for the betterment of others, and to live the truth of our faith, not just with words, but with deeds, unquote. Mr. President, in the voice of one great president of the past, there you go again. Are we to understand all of this as a personal duty, or are you telling us that you're advocating the transformation that you have promised and the change that you'll bring to America? It's going to affect our politics and policies. Again, you seem confused. Or maybe we're just not interpreting you precisely. What theology is driving you in your speech, Mr. President? But he says he wants us to live out the truth of our faith. But Mr. President, if all of the different world religions are really truly different faiths, and if their theology differs from each other, how do we live them out? In truth, but not with words only. But what if we carry out our deeds? And what if those deeds happen to be violent? Do you understand the implication of your own statements here? Well, the president further noted, so even as we join the great debates of our age, unquote. Mr. President, what debates are you talking about? The debates that we've been forbidden to have by Senator Harry Reid in the Senate? You've not debated these issues today. You simply pontificate your views. I say let's have that debate. I believe that Mr. Gingrich has already offered to challenge you and debate you on various issues. But I say first, let's debate your theology. Let's really understand the religion that drives your politics and policies. He goes on then to speak of the topics of which he would like to see debated, with all that kindness and with respect. First, he says, how we best put people back to work. Secondly, how we ensure opportunity for every child. Third, the role of government in protecting this extraordinary planet that God has made for us. Fourth, how we lessen the occasions of war. Even as we debate these great issues, we must be reminded of the differences that we can make each day in our small interactions in our personal lives. But we have the political ramifications and then the personal ramifications in our interactions daily. My friends, this president is sincere and committed to the implementation of his core values into the political process, along with seeing that they become America's law. This is clearly becoming a visible cultural war, and its cultural values are clearly opposed to historic Orthodox Christianity and its core values. But what is the theology that drives this president? Well, we're going to look at that very carefully in just a few more presentations.